When Donald Trump came into office, he established a Department of External Revenue. This would be a part of the Department of Treasury. External revenue would be taxing, basically tariffs, taxing other countries or people trying to bring things into the U.S. and trying to make that a revenue source. It's been seen as very successful. I think they're looking at bringing in upwards of $1 trillion a year. I haven't seen the exact forecast, but there's a lot of numbers being thrown around. How does that compare to how much money is brought in through income taxation? Now, we look at how much money the IRS brings in. It breaks down into several different categories. There's Social Security and Medicare, which is a separate fund. There's corporate taxation, and then there's individual taxation, which is the largest amount. Right now, the amount of money that's brought in through individual taxation is a little bit more than 2.5 trillion. And now they're looking at bringing in 1 trillion through tariffs. So if we can live within a budget, which is a big if, then we could start to diminish how much income taxation there is and start to replace it with the tariff taxation, the external revenue. And that might allow us to make a more attractive tax regime so that people aren't taxed so aggressively. And we have a very progressive tax system in the U.S. where the people making the lowest amount of money are hardly taxed at all. Or if they are taxed, they then have credits of all different types that pretty much give them their money back, sometimes pays them money simply to be working. And then it goes up very steeply against the wealthy, very steeply. And I think this is worth looking at. How can we change income taxation to reflect more moderation due to the fact that more money is being brought in through external taxation and tariffs? What do you think? The reason the tariff income is working is because other countries already had tariffs of types on U.S. imported goods. Either they had tariffs, such as Europe had a 23% VAT tax in general on the U.S. goods, which is pretty significant. It meant that a lot of U.S. goods, like cars and stuff, never got sold into Europe. But there was not anything in place for European goods coming into the U.S. So now they've agreed to a 15% taxation. And the reason they have the imbalance is because in the U.S. we have states have sales tax, which kind of serve as a type of tariff, if you will. But states don't know the derivation of the goods, whether it's domestic or foreign. But anyhow, are tariffs working? I think tariffs are working because other countries already had tariffs on U.S. goods. Tariffs in the form of direct tariffs or in addition to non-financial barriers for entry for selling goods into their country, such that only domestic made goods can be sold or moved. So I think the reason tariffs are working is because it did bring parity and balance back to the relationships between different countries. So I think that's very attractive. I think it's exciting. The U.S. needs to change how it derives income. If you think of the IRS and tariff income as being income to a business, and then the business has expenses, the U.S. is very focused on income taxation. And the difficulty is that we're not having as many children as a society, and there's not as many new workers. We have to depend on migrants to come in if they're legal, and they're coming in at the lower end of the wage scale. And when you come in at the lower end of the wage scale, rather than bringing more taxes into the country, you start to get subsidized by the U.S. government. So that's not an attractive income source. Work source, yes, but income source, no. So the U.S. government needs to grow, needs to diversify, especially as we look towards the use of robots to do manual labor, not too much now, but in the future, as we start to use more robotic solutions. You can't tax a robot on its labor. I mean, you might tax it as property, but you can't tax it as labor. So that's going to continue to reduce how much income the U.S. government derives from income taxation. So we need to diversify. That's why tariffs are a great idea to help spread that burden off to people who are benefiting from selling into our country, namely foreign countries. That's why we tariff them. So I think it makes a lot of sense, and hopefully other countries will need to address the same issue. I think it will grow in use. What do you think? Do you think we should get rid of income taxation altogether and replace it with the amount that we get from tariffs? I'm interested in your comments and thoughts. Please, we read them all. Also, like, subscribe, and follow this way to get this message out to other people.